I have Rolf Schade from Grand River Home Building Inspectors. Hey, Rolf,
Yeah,
how are you?
good thing. How are you?
Excellent, Rolf. So, Rolf, you've been in business quite a bit. How long you been in the business
Yeah,
in home
21 years
inspection?
now.
21,
Yeah,
21 years inspecting homes.
yeah,
And do you ever get bored of it?
yeah.
Like,
Long time. No, I really enjoy it. Yeah, I look forward to I look forward to my job every day, and then
yeah,
no, I really enjoy educating the people and helping them out.
I follow you on social
Yeah.
media, and I see
So
once in a while you have something new that pops up that I've never seen before at a house, and it's always something interesting
yeah,
and funny. You, the
yeah.
things you
Well, you
see
know what
that,
I enjoy every, yeah, first thing in the morning when I get up, I always go on the home inspection forums, and you know what, I learned that as well, because I see just like you, I see and yeah, I try to try to post some of the humorous stuff on Facebook and things, but I'm always learning things, and then it's a North American, these forums are North American, so a lot of things I might find, I apply to things like in Florida or Texas or California or something. But nevertheless, like houses are houses, and kind of neat to learn different things all the time. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I bet with all the new stuff coming up. So talking about new stuff, Ralph, one of the questions I had for you is, do people need a home inspection when you buy a brand new house?
Well, I think so. I think I mean, of course, I'm biased, but I think people should get a home inspection on a brand new home. Quite often, I see things that, if nothing else, people, the builders would be aware of things that a little sooner, I suppose. A lot of times I'll see perhaps missing insulation, I'll see missing caulking, I'll see cracks in the foundation, just different items of, loose counters, or just things that a homeowner wouldn't be aware of until they actually moved into the house. Or actually, I'm talking about PDF or PDI inspections, pre-delivery inspections.
Redelivering, yeah.
But certainly, I do a lot of 1 year as well, 1 year carry-on warranties, and it allows us to document things that they can take back to the builder and say this, and certainly the builder should be able to look after these items.
Okay.
Often it's things people just aren't aware of. I see lots of this could cosmetic, uh, as I said, missing installation, or just things you can't see. And of course, we have a checklist we go through, and that people just aren't aware. I always tell people you don't know what you don't know. So
Yeah, no, that's
yeah.
a good thing.
So
You don't know what you
I
don't
think
know.
it's in people's best interest to do that. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a kind of a cheap insurance policy for people to find out what might be going on with their home. And quite often too, I can make certain recommendations as well. That, I see stupid things all the time that perhaps builders do, or even designers do, that like just the other day, I did a house where the the roof, there's a little bit of a roof over the front of the front window, but the roof was coming down over the front porch, if you can imagine, kind of like
Yeah.
a just a short roof piece over the front bay window, and then the roof was coming over top of the front porch, and there's no gutter there. So what's going to happen when it rains? Of course, all the water is going to go on people's heads while they're standing at the front door, or it's going to ice up on the front porch. And I'm thinking, who designed something like that? So
Yeah, no
so I
kidding, right?
suggest to my clients, yeah, so I suggest to my clients they might want to put a gutter there and direct the rain away from, or any water, away from the front porch. So just, we see these things, and I might make recommendations to make things better, safer, things like that. So yeah,
Yeah, some stuff. Sometimes buyers they get excited about the house and they overlook all these things. So I think it's helpful. It's helpful to take
it
somebody
is.
even just for a walkthrough or something, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's
Absolutely.
great. So, you mentioned Terion. So, do they accept your recommendation later on, or how does that work with them?
Well, I think, I mean, as far as say foundation cracks goes, I mean, I'll document foundation cracks, but they'll only respond to them if they're a certain size. And uh, I mean, having said that, that's one of the last things that fall off on the Terion warrant, the 7 years. So if I document a crack at that, say the 1 year mark, and then, it may get bigger, it may not move at all, but certainly it's there and it's something that they could respond to if the crack were to get bigger, or if it were to start leaking, then certainly the builder could respond to it because we've documented it early enough as well.
Okay. Okay. So it's very,
So,
very recommended then, right? To have an inspection
yeah,
for a brand new home.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
For any home, as a matter of fact, to be honest with you,
Mhm.
because you
Yeah,
never know
yes.
what other people had. And talking about that, during the pandemic, I'm sure people sometimes they weren't getting home inspections done. They were just
Yeah,
going walking blind in the house.
yeah.
And so you were doing what as I remember, you were doing a pre-offer inspection, right? So that was kind of a
Ye-
walkthrough or something.
Yeah, so the three inspections that I do, I guess, might say, number one is I can do a pre-inspection on us for a seller that wants to sell the home. Of course, in a busy market, there's not that much that going on. I mean, what do you want me coming in for and saying you got mold in the attic and now you have to disclose it, from a seller's perspective. But yeah, for the buyers, I was doing a lot of, and I am again still doing a lot of 1 hour walkthrough inspections. But I want to differentiate that it's not a cheap inspection. I don't offer it as an alternative. So I do them in a multiple offer situation where there's
Yes,
20 offers or something, they just want me to go through it and for them to decide whether it's worthwhile for them to put an offer in on the house or not.
yeah,
Um, I don't. It's not to replace a full inspection with the
exactly.
report.
And
And
how long is a full inspection? How long does it take?
typically 3 hours.
3 hours. But you go through everything in the house. You
Exactly. Yeah.
with a with a comb and you like
Yeah.
find everything that's wrong with it, and you let them
Yeah.
know this way they're aware of what's
That's right.
happening,
And
what they're
everything's
walking into.
documented with pictures in the report. They have their
Yeah.
electronic report. And then we have the photos, and I put little circles and arrows in the photos pointing to the items that we're looking at. And that includes the recommendations, not necessarily just the defects. So, I mean, the whole point of the inspection is to really to educate the client about their home. And as we find defects as we go through the home, then of course it all gets documented as well. And then I can offer advice on who to get to fix it or how to fix it, and certainly why it's a problem. Um, yeah, so that's essentially the process. We have specialized tools. For example, the moisture meter to verify that we have moisture. I have thermal imaging camera that would indicate that we have moisture, and then I'll verify whether it's moisture or not with a moisture meter, because really the thermal imaging just indicates temperature differences. So I might get a dark shadow in a wall, and I have to analyze that dark shadow to see if it's moisture or whether it's actually just a cold zone.
Okay.
And either way, how come? Why is it cold or why is it wet? And then we try to determine why these things are happening to the best of our ability. I mean, it's still a visual inspection. I can't start ripping walls out, but certainly it indicates that there's a problem. What are we going to do about it?
Oh,
So,
that's very interesting. So you
yeah.
mentioned moisture meter, thermal imaging. Is there like any other specialty tools that you use during the inspection, or?
Uh, I think that's pretty much about it. I mean, I use a drone over the roof, weather permitting. Um, I can get all the angles of a roof. Often there's some valleys or some areas of the roof or even chimneys that
Mm,
I can't see, and because some of the chimneys are really high. I like to see the top of the chimney. Is it deteriorated? And we'll get photos with a drone with that, and then they're pretty clear photos, and I can zoom in with the drone and I get a pretty detailed analysis of the roof. Do we need some caulking on the nail heads? So often the
yeah,
roofers will forget to caulk over the nail heads. The flash here on the chimney, okay. Just different things like that. So yeah,
right. Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. And do you have anything? A lot of people sometimes worry about electrical and if it's done properly, aluminum wiring, things like that. How do you determine? How do you find
yeah.
out?
So I start out with I mean, that's one of the first things we do in the basement is we locate the panel. I take the panel cover off and I'm looking inside to see, and I want to make sure there's nothing burnt or charred. Make sure the appropriate size wires are going to the appropriate size breakers. We want to make sure that the we have the proper breakers in there. And then at that point, I can determine whether we have copper wiring or whether it's aluminum wiring. And then further to that, in the older homes, there's always the risk of having knob and tube wiring. So certainly we could see, probably we could see the knob and tube before we even get into the panel. But
Yeah. Sorry,
um,
Ralph. So for a
yeah,
lot of people, actually, they don't even know what knob and tube because it's almost 100 years old, probably, right?
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So how does it look like? Let's say, if you don't know what you're looking at, and how does it
So,
look?
okay, let me just see if I can pull this up. I have, okay.
No, take your time.
Can you,
Yeah.
do
Oh
you know
yeah.
how to allow me to share a screen?
Of course. If I can get my mouse to work here, Ralph. It should be okay now, I think.
Okay, so
Are you able to
let me
share?
see. Here we are.
Right.
Okay, do you see the screen?
I see the screen, Ralph.
Okay. So some of the things, as I said, this isn't the best of PowerPoint, but one of the things that I do look at is with the roofing, and you can see, for example, I just pulled up a couple of pictures of roofing that shingles that are deteriorated. And as you can see, we're looking for the curled shingles, and
Okay.
certainly that's really evident with the drone.
So that
Um,
has to be replaced. Something like that has to be
yeah, they
replaced.
have to be those kind of pictures have those kind of shingles need to be replaced. Um, let me just see there.
To have the roof picture up, usually how long
Yeah,
does the roof last? Some people say 15, 25. When you buy a roof, they tell you want 15 or 25-year shingle. What does that mean?
yeah. So the builders usually put on a 25-year shingle, depending on the quality of the builder, I guess. And really, the shingles never last that long. Usually, you're going to get 12 to 15 years out of it. And
Okay.
typically, it's the southeast side of the roof that's going to deteriorate sooner than the rest of the roof.
Southeast side.
Southeast is because it
Okay.
gets most of the sun and most of the heat. And it's actually the heat that starts to deteriorate the shingles sooner than anything.
Oh,
And that's why we want to have lots of ventilation in the attic, or appropriate ventilation in the attic to keep it cool. So as far as the roof goes, and I'll show you that in a minute. But as far as the roof goes, we have ventilation. We have vents on top of the roof, near the top third of the roof, and it could either be the boxes or it can be the ridge venting. And then underneath at the eaves, we have soffits, and that allows the air to enter into the attic space. So in the summertime, we want to have airflow to try to keep the roof cool. And in the wintertime, we want to have airflow because there's a certain degree of heat loss that goes up through the insulation. Now we have warm air going on the cold wood, and that's going to create moisture. And we need that airflow to remove the moisture, otherwise we get mold. So a few times a week, I go into attics and we have mold. And why do we have mold? Because it doesn't have enough ventilation. 9 times out of 10. Sometimes it's bathroom venting into the attic space where people have just terminated the bathroom vent in the attic. Again, now we're introducing warm, moist air into the attic space, and that'll create mold as well. So there's a lot of situations that'll create mold in the attic, but primarily we want to have lots of ventilation in that attic space. So as far as the electrical goes, the center picture there, that's the knob and tube wiring.
right. Okay, there it is. So you find
So
a
just to simplify, what I tell people is when it's to simplify everything, we have an electric power plant. From that plant, we bring a black wire, we bring it to your house, and then we have a light bulb. And that black wire is connected to the light bulb. It goes through a filament, and that filament will heat up and that generates heat, and that's what creates the light. And now the electricity has to go back to where it came from to create the circuit, to finish the circuit. So now we have a white wire going back to the power plant. So power coming in, and it has to return to complete that circuit. And that's what we have here, the knob tube wiring. You can't tell the colors, but one wire is going to be black and one wire is going to be white.
Right.
And that's the knob and tube.
That's very
So
interesting.
the knobs, right? That's what we see there are the knobs, and that's where the wiring changed direction. Tubes, I don't have a picture of that, but it went through the floor joists. So it's just a ceramic tube really where the wire can pass through without touching the wood.
Okay, so anytime you see something
So,
like this, you had so if somebody sees something like this in a house they're buying, Ralph, um, and you know they're not sure if it's still active, live, or is it just there because they didn't remove it.
yeah, and that's a
You can find
possibility
out,
as
right?
well. Although the better electricians, they should remove it all just to make sure it's all dealt with, and
Hmm.
also to prevent anybody from accidentally reconnecting it. A lot of times I'll go into an old home and I've got miles of wire, the knob and tube wiring still there, and you know I got my tester to determine whether it's whether it's live or not. But nevertheless, you know, you might get hairy homeowners saying, "Oh, here's a wire. Let's see what happens with this." I put what power to it, you know, and it's
The
just
nail,
it's a dangerous situation. So really they should be totally disconnected and cut off
totally disconnected. Okay, all right. So
and cut
it
off
doesn't
and
make
cut
sense to
to.
keep it because you're nostalgic or something, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. No, take it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
take it all
And
out.
and what about you know you hear things about aluminum wiring? It was evident in
Okay.
the 60s and early 70s, I guess. Um,
Yeah, so aluminum wiring was typically used between 1967 and 77, 78. It was kind of petering out around that area, around that time. I mean, some of the contractors still had some in stock, so they may or may not use it. So when I get a house that's dated around 77, 78, I'm thinking, well, it may or may not have it. Wait till I get to the panel and we'll see if we have any. Or even an older home, and they've done some upgrades in that era, 67 to 77. So I might have the original copper wiring, and then I'll see where they put an addition on the back of the house, but it was during the mid 70s, and the electrician may have used aluminum wiring in the addition. So either way, the aluminum wiring in itself is not unsafe. But what's happened or what does happen quite often is once again, Harry homeowner gets in there and he puts a couple of circuits in himself and he connects the aluminum wiring and does it improperly. So if you want to join aluminum to copper wiring, it needs to have or should have an aluminum barrette that should have an antioxidant, and it needs to be connected in that manner. The reason is that the two wires are dissimilar metals and they'll expand and contract at different rates. So we want to prevent any arcing, and that's why we use that antioxidant. Also, the photo top left in the electrical picture that I've got there,
okay.
and there's a possibility that that was an aluminum circuit as well, because sometimes the wires get loose behind the circuit or behind the outlet, and that was an issue as well. So many insurance companies want the electrical outlets and the switches updated to be aluminum compatible, and that's done in two different ways. One is pigtailing, where an electrician would properly connect a copper pigtail to the aluminum wiring, and then wire it to the outlet. The other way is to actually get an outlet or a septic or light fixture, or sorry, light switch that's actually stamped to be aluminum copper compatible. And usually they have a stamp on it that says CU for copper
Okay.
/ ALR. So copper, aluminum, revised. And
Right.
they're made to accept aluminum wiring.
So I never
So
heard of that one before. I heard of pigtailing, but I
yeah,
never heard of that
yeah,
stamp
yeah,
outlet.
yeah.
Oh,
And and that's my own personal preference. I mean, it's, you know, every electrician might have their own preference, but it's my preference. It's just that I'm thinking there's a lot of outlets that have got all kinds of wires in them, and now you're trying to, you know, you pigtail it. Now you're trying to get that outlet back in the box, and you're pushing on it, and kind of, you know, the wires are trying to, you know, you just introduce more wires into the
Okay.
outlets,
So pigtailing, also, you're talking about that oxidation thing. So
yeah.
that's what it has. That's the material that you use. The oxid.
For the aluminum, yeah, the
Yeah.
pigtail
Okay.
or the designated fixtures like that are stamped
Okay.
ALCL,
Yeah. And
AL, yeah.
you'd rather the latter. You'd rather the stamped fixture, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's probably easier. You know, more cost efficient.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay. So,
So now, so I mean, there's what I tell people too is there's some insurance companies that you tell them, oh, I've got aluminum wire, and they said, okay, we're just going to charge you for extra bucks a year, which is fine, you know, but I still think electricians should go through the system and make sure that nobody's fooled around with it and that everything's been installed safely anyways. There's some insurance companies going to say, absolutely, we want an electrician that's ESA certified. That's the Electrical Safety Authority. If they want the electrician that's ESA certified to come in and verify that everything's done safely, and he'll provide a report for the insurance company. And there's the odd insurance company that just downright refuses to insure aluminum. And the insurance company just want to minimize their exposure to any risk.
right.
So, and I guess they've determined that the aluminum wiring presents a higher risk, so they just want to make sure it's safely installed. The aluminum wire itself, it's kind of brittle. If you wiggle a wire back and forth a few times, it'll break off easily, a lot easier than copper. It's also very malleable, so sometimes, once again, Harry Homer might tighten the wire a little bit too tight onto a receptacle,
Yes.
and then it actually starts to break the wire as well. So I'd say it's not very handyman friendly to work with. So it just really should be, like I say, an electrician should come in and verify that everything's done safely. But beyond that, there's no real problems with aluminum. It's a safe
Excellent.
wire to use. As a matter of fact, all your heavy wiring today, all your many brand new houses have got aluminum feed coming into the panels.
Really?
Yeah, all your
Yeah.
high
Okay.
tension wires that you see, that's all aluminum.
Oh, that's very interesting to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
Excellent.
so it's not an issue with the bigger wire. It's the smaller 14 gauge, like the light wires for outlets and lighting and things like that. So yeah,
Learned something new today, Ralph.
yeah,
Yeah, that's great. So
yeah.
I was Ralph. You know, there are different kind of inspections that you hear of. You hear about wet inspection, septic inspection, things like that. You do wet inspection, right? Like,
No, I don't.
okay, but
I've often
what is
thought
that?
about, yeah, I've often thought about doing it, but it's I don't know, I just don't run into enough of it to make it worth my while. But anyways, a wet inspection, it's wet stands for Wood Energy Technology Transfer. So essentially, it's a chimney sweep who's taken the courses to the wet
Okay,
courses that are offered, and so he's going to come in and he's going to make sure that your wood burning fireplace or wood burning appliance is safe for usage. So he's going to examine the chimney, he's going to examine the appliance itself and make sure that that it's not a fire hazard.
okay, excellent.
So there's certain
And
rules that he has to follow. For example, there has to be enough clearance in front of uh, or fireproof clearance in front. I think it's 14 inches. I think it is in front of the fireplace, so that any sparks that are jumping out that won't start the floor on fire. Certainly, the chimney needs to be in good condition. So some of them might just shine a light up. Otherwise, some of them drop a camera down the flue, make sure that the clay tile is all in decent shape. So there's a few different things that they do. As I said, I don't do it. But yeah, certainly there's wet certified inspectors
yeah,
out there that will provide a report for people that want to use wood burning appliances.
and let's say you're doing a home inspection on a house that has a chimney, and you notice, okay, something wrong. You would be able to recommend the buyers to do get a home inspector, like a wet inspector.
Wet inspection, absolutely
Yeah,
goes right in the report. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, wood
and
burning fireplace. And I disclaim it, then I just suggest that you have a wet inspection done.
excellent.
And the insurance companies will probably require it as well.
Yeah, because sometimes buyers they'll see a fireplace and they'll get excited about a wood burning fireplace, right?
Yeah, yeah,
It just looks nice, feels nice. So
it
you'll be able
does.
to recommend that they'd have to get it inspected if you notice something wrong with it.
Yeah, yeah.
Ralph, what are there like different levels of inspections, or is it just one size fits all? How does it work?
Um, I don't know. I mean, there's different inspectors that have different levels. For example, my brother, he used to be a home inspector up in Rosso, up around the Huntsville area.
Oh yeah,
And he was a pillar to post inspector, and he had three different levels. So um, they add things into. He had his basic level, which is just a basic inspection, and then the next level was thermal imaging and um, pest pest inspection, and uh, and I do all that anyways.
yeah.
And I forget what the third level was that he had there. Yeah, I forget what it was that he had for.
Okay,
Um,
but
yeah, I can't remember
usually
what the.
usually it's one inspection, a thorough inspection that you can cover everything, right? You cover.
Yeah, and I never believed in it. He always said, "Oh, Ralph, you should be doing, charging extra for thermal imaging and so forth." And I just think that it's part of my toolkit. And I just want to give a good, thorough, honest inspection for my clients and use the tools, the best tools that I can for the job. And so I can provide my clients with a good, honest opinion, and they can formulate a good, honest opinion, and they know what they're dealing with. And uh, I've given them all
Yeah.
the possible information that I can.
All right. Yeah.
So I
Fair
don't, I
enough.
didn't, I don't really believe in all the different levels. I think what I do is thorough. And as I said, my brother was just charging extra for things that I do anyways. So
Is he a big brother or a little brother?
he was my big brother.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah. He's
I
retired
see
now, but
that
he's
you have some more slides for us there, Ralph. Do you want to share those, or what's in there?
sure. Yeah, yeah. If I let me see now. So we got the roof one there. So as I say, we look at the roofing with the drone, and if not, I have good binoculars and I have a ladder that goes to the side of the roof, and I
Yeah.
can see what kind of shape the shingles are in. And certainly after 20 years, I can determine. I got a good idea what's going on. And plus, of course, we go inside the attic and have a look from that side as well to see what's going on. Um, these are photos of attic spaces. So top left. I don't know if I can make this bigger or not.
I
Can
probably
I?
can zoom in a little bit with the yeah.
I
See
don't know.
the little bar on the bottom right there. The bottom right.
Ooh,
Oh yeah, I see that.
okay, right
Yeah,
there.
you can
Oh, look at that.
make it bigger a little
Yeah.
bit.
Well, okay.
Not so
So
much,
if
but
we
it's
look
okay.
at yeah, if we look at the top left, that's
That's
where
better.
I'm talking about attic ventilation, and you can see the vents from the soffits underneath, and then it's going out through the roof vents up top. So that's how the attic ventilation works. When we don't have the adequate ventilation, you'll see in the center picture all the mold that could develop, and I get
Wow,
I get that a
that's
lot.
crazy.
Bottom left there, you'll see how some people try to connect the exhaust vents. So number one, they put way too many exhaust vents going out one chimney kind of or one vent, roof vent. And number two, it's plastic. And now we've got hot air going through a cold zone. It's going to sweat and
Yes,
likely start dripping onto the insulation and then finally make its way through into the ceiling.
that looks like
The,
a DIY right there.
oh yeah. And then on the right, I just wanted to show everybody what vermiculite looks like. So vermiculite was a product that was used in the 50s and 60s. And once again, our genius government thought, hey, this is a great product to put in the attic spaces. Let's give people incentive to put it in the attic. And so they did that. And with a product called Zonolite. And so yeah, so the people bought this vermiculite, and then they discovered that zonalite was mined in Montana, and oh my gosh, it might have asbestos in it. So
Excellent.
now they're paying people to take it out again.
Now
Similar
you
to the
wonder where your
UFI.
tax money goes, right?
Yeah, so this is what it looks like. And when I see that, we need to get it tested to see if it had, well, we don't need to, but we always suggest that have it tested if it contains asbestos or not. It may not, but there's a high percentage that it does. And of course, you as a homeowner would want to know if it has asbestos or not. So what Health Canada says is if you don't disturb it, you're not going to create a dust. If you don't create a dust, it's not going to be a health hazard. But of course, if you want to start putting more insulation in or do any work, like change your venting or add venting or anything like that to your bathrooms, now you have to go in the attic and now you're going to create a dust and you don't want to do that. So, I mean, people can choose what they like, I mean, like I said, you can leave it in there. It's not going to be a health hazard if you don't disturb it. But you go to sell the house and now, oh my gosh, you got vermiculite. Did you have it tested? Well, no.
And
So
disclose all
our,
that
our
stuff.
suggestion is,
Yeah,
yeah, and it's really expensive to have it removed.
I bet. Yeah, I bet.
Yeah,
Excellent. What else you got
not
there?
cheap. So let me see this. Next one, I just wanted to show that, and I see this a lot. So I just had to get a picture here what grading should be. So we always want the grading to slope away from the house. How often do I go to a house and the grade is sloping towards the house? And then people wonder why they have water going into the basement. And the same as downspouts, they got to be going far enough away from the house to discharge the water away from the house.
And
Uh,
I think that this is just common sense, but a lot of people actually don't pay attention to this stuff.
no, and how many times do I see a patio sloping towards the house? A nice
Yeah,
concrete patio.
yeah.
What's the solution? We can do slab jacking. We can usually when they pour it, it'll be sloping away, but quite often it sinks.
Yes.
So a solution to a sinking patio would be slab jacking, where they would drill holes and they put like a mud mixture into those holes and try and jack it up.
Yeah.
So these are
Interesting.
some of the things that we see outside. We've got failed window seals, uh, cracks in the foundation. You'll see here the brick separating from the wall,
Oh, wow.
or no sealant in there. Um, Bricks that are deteriorating with the mortars deteriorating. So here's where we always suggest to get a mason to come in. Oops, there's a block foundation here. You'll see it's starting to, all the mortar's starting to go missing here. So all these things need attention. Next, decks. I showed a picture of a collapsed deck right there. And
Wow.
it's very few times that I see decks that are really built properly. We're looking at the proper bolts to the structure. We're looking at these joist hangers. We're looking for the proper header board here. Ideally, we're supposed to have flashing. I never, ever see flashing. You see here? Flashing, flashing.
Oh,
Very rarely do I see flashing there.
that's kind of bad, isn't it? Like, where's the water going to go?
Well, exactly. So the water does get in if there's no flashing there, and it
Yeah.
just keeps soaking away and soaking away.
Yeah.
And the risk too is that it runs in behind this wood here, right? This header, and it starts rotting out these bolts.
And there goes
Now,
the
granted,
deck
it's not
on the
something that's
left
going to
picture.
happen overnight, but in the over length of time, it's a risk.
It might
So
happen when you're stepping on it, where you go on the deck and having too
yeah,
many beers, and you're like, whoops.
yeah. Well, as I said, quite often I see decks that just aren't done right, or the pickets. There's not supposed to be any more than 4 inches apart, so the kids can't get their heads caught in there. I see that all kinds of different variations of that. Yeah, there's all kinds of deck problems that we see. Chimneys. So here's a chimney. You'll see the brick deteriorating, no chimney cap. You'll see the mortar around here deteriorating. Where's all the rain gonna go? And that's why
All
the mortar
inside.
starts to go missing, because the rain gets right in there. And again, that's something that my drone really helps out with.
Okay. Yeah, this has a drone taking picture.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Plumbing. So here's something that we want to investigate when we're plumbing. So this is kind of a thing here on galvanized plumbing. So let me see if I got a picture of. There's galvanized plumbing right there.
So
A
what is
water heater. So
for
it's
somebody that
steel.
doesn't know?
Yeah, so it's steel plumbing as opposed to today's copper or plastic. And essentially, I'll zoom in here. This is what happens with galvanized plumbing. It starts to plug up and rust. It starts to rot.
Right. So that's rust on the inside, right?
Yeah, and it rusts from the inside out.
Yeah.
And once again, the insurance companies want to minimize their exposure to risk, and they typically won't insure these the galvanized. By the way, if any clients buy a house that has knob tube or galvanized, the insurance company gives you like 90 days or something to fix these items. But they for sure they won't insure the galvanized, and there's very few companies that insure the
Okay. So they'll
knob and
give you a
tube.
chance to fix the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So galvanized is a no-no. When we see it in the house right away, documented, and it suggests that you have a plumber upgrade. Another issue that we see quite often, usually between 2000 or 1998 and 2008, there was a product called Kitech,
Oh
and
yeah.
this is what Kitech looks like.
Yeah.
And it can be confusing because they do have some plumbing that's multicolored, but it's not Kitech.
Specs.
But the Kitech goes under different trade names. There's a few different ones, such as Plumb Better. Sometimes you just see the XBA, you don't see the Kitech on it. And I have to determine whether it's Kitech or not. So, what does happen here, the fittings, they deteriorate, they fail, and your house floods.
Yeah. And they
So,
had I think a class action lawsuit with this thing, right?
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
they had a class action lawsuit, and there's a deadline on it. I'm not sure when the deadline was for the class action lawsuit, but
I think it's passed anyways.
I think it is passed. And I remember there was a guy, he wanted me to map out the his plumbing system in the house, and I said, yeah, I really don't do that. But anyways, he tried to join the class action lawsuit, and God, they were making him jump through hoops, and he just said, I called him back. I said, how'd you make out? He said, oh, I gave up on it. He said, I just had it replaced.
Yeah. Yeah. Easier. All right.
Yeah. So these are things that I certainly look out for, and and the agents should help educate the agents a little bit when they see the galvanized plumbing or the Kitech, something that they can be aware of, and perhaps warn their clients, listen, we have this here, but let's get the inspector in to verify everything and make sure, but just be aware that it's there or could possibly be there. So
All right. So Ralph, we have just I think 1 minute on the thing on the recording.
okay.
I was wondering, what tips do you have for somebody that just going for a showing? What to look for, like in a few seconds, and then how can people contact you?
Well, I have my website. Most of the agents that I know have cards. By the way, here's a quick picture of asbestos around the ductwork right here.
Oh yeah,
Leaking furnace, we see that a lot.
that's pretty
So
bad.
people can contact me to get a hold of me. My phone number, 519-581-7150. And I have a website. It's www.grbi.ca. And that's a Grand River Building Inspections.ca. So grbi.ca. And of course, there's email, which is info@grbi.ca
Perfect.
as well. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Ralph, for all the
Well, thank you so
helpful
much for having
information
me.
today.
Yeah,
It
thank you
was
so
my
much.
pleasure, and I appreciate your
Pleasure
time.
too. Yeah, thank you.